Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Apex AMA. I'm your host, Lawton Ho, here with Verified Investing, and I go live every single day. The markets are open from 12:30 to 1:15 to answer all of your questions. How's everybody doing today? I hope you all had a great weekend. What happened? Bitcoin went crazy a little bit, up above 120. Trump announced tariffs on Mexico and the European Union. What's new? Anyways, you can feel free to follow me here on Twitter at Lawton Investing. If you send me any DMs with any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But anyways, so if you are watching this, wherever you're watching this, and want to submit your questions for me to answer, you can go and do so here by scanning this QR code or visiting the verifiedinvesting.com homepage, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. With that being said, let's hop straight into the charts and into some of your questions. So what's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's had a great day of trading so far. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin has gone up high. You saw this beautiful trend line I drew from this pivot to this pivot all the way through and took a gain there. And we had this inverse head and shoulders that it hit the measured move perfectly all the way up to here and pushed through higher. So I'm going to let you guys submit your questions to me. And I just exited a trade actually in the live day trading room. Let me switch and show you how let's open in a different tab actually. Let's go here. Let's go here. Okay, so, don't mean to do that. Here's what happened, okay? So this is going to be kind of complicated, but let me review the trade. I started my short on Rocket Labs. This is a risky company, kind of a meme stock right here at 41.25. I started my trade here at 41.25 and I added 50 cents higher, bringing my average to 41.51. And then afterwards, looks like I took half off right here. I took half off here in the money or at my break even. And then I added 50 cents above that and 50 cents above that. Right. And then my average was here at 42.01. Then it came down. I closed half of my position there and let it ride and exited just now at $41.43. So if you saw my mouth moving, I was updating the trading room. But anyways, cool little day trade we just took. Nice little $690 gain. Not the biggest gain, but we'll take that. Next thing. Okay. Paula says, any recommendations as to how much money to seed in a Bluefin account? Really, it just depends on what you're comfortable trading with, right? Like cryptocurrency, the great thing about cryptocurrency is it's not like day trading. In day trading, there's a specific minimum that you need to reach, right? A specific minimum you have to reach before trading, right? Like in order to day trade, at least in America with stocks, you have to have 25K minimum basically to day trade stocks and ETFs. With crypto, there is no such minimum. So it's really up to you, right? Aaron says, good morning, Lauren. Good morning, Aaron. Can you chart Circle? It's broken an upsloping trend line, and it's still a new stock. Yeah, having a good day around 196. To me, if anything, this looks bearish, right? It's a new stock. It's not something that I would like hold long term, but this is kind of like a head and shoulders pattern, right? Depending on how you draw it, right? Could be like shoulder, head, shoulder. See a break of the trend line looking for a retrace, and you can consider shorting it somewhere around here. Of course, we don't always expect things to go to the measured move, but as far as circle is concerned, we see that this measured move here on circle is about to $41.64. Is it going to come down to $41.64? Unlikely, but it could, particularly with these new meme stocks. All right, let's go on to some more questions. Nathan says, where do you see WRD headed in the next week or two? Yeah. Let's see here. WRD. So it's hard for me to tell you exactly where it's going. Does it favor a move to the upside? Yes. But where is it going to go? It's difficult to say. I can tell you that I have this downsloping trend line that's beginning to form on a WeRide. Down, looking for a move higher. My first take profit first target would be this 934, about 9% higher, 975, around 14% higher, and finally around 1045, around 22% higher. Yeah. But that's kind of my target for WRD. Is it going to go there in the next week or two? I couldn't tell you, but if I was bullish and if I was buying, that's where I would target, right? If I hadn't bought yet and I wanted a downside target to potentially get in for a steal, I'd look around the $8 level right here at this nice gap fill for an entry. Greg says, would you be able to take a look at Brett? Sure. Brett, you're a subscriber. Cool with you learning a lot. Notice a good shorting opportunity at 6 cents. Could you check where the price might be headed? I was thinking about 44 cents. So you're talking about 60 cents? It's already gone above there today. This is not something I've traded before, so and I always say this before I talk about any stock that I haven't really taken a look at before, or cryptocurrency, just as a disclaimer, right? So I may not be as familiar with their price action. Depending on how you want to draw it, Brett, if this was at the highs of the chart, I'd say this is bearish, but this to me actually looks bullish. And let me tell you why. You have this up move and this sideways consolidation. This is a bull flag, and you can see the price is down significantly, down basically 76% from its previous highs. So definitely favoring a move to the upside. Yeah, I would not short this, to be honest. If anything, I'd go long. Trey says, good morning, Lawton. What's going on, Trey? Hope you're doing well. I'm new to Smart Money Crypto. What leverage, if any, do you and the other traders use for long and shorts? Around 3%. Around 3% leverage. All right, we have some comments from Twitter saying, Sahil says, what's up, Sahil? Saying UNH sits at a crucial level. What do you think? For me, for UNH, the crucial level to buy is 292. I'd be potentially interested in buying around 292. I think this thing favors a move to the upside. Absolutely favors a move to the upside. Yep. Topper says, NEM big move. Yeah, I mean, Newmont is pushing up nicely. It's good to see. Let's see the price of gold. Likely because of gold, right? Well, gold is just kind of consolidation, just consolidating here. All right, let's keep going on these questions. Renica says, "Hey, Lon, just joined Smart Money Stocks and ETFs. Welcome. We're so happy to have you. Thanks for being a member of the Verified Investing community. Learning a lot. Awesome. That's what we want. Would you please pull up SPRT and advise on entry point? SPRT? I think you mean SRPT. Yeah, Siripa Therapeutics. Yeah, for SRPT, I have a couple levels here that I'd be interested in. My first level to get in was actually hit. I'm not sure when I drew this article. I'm sure I wrote an article about SRPT a while ago, but my entry, yep, it was already tagged. Over here, I had this beautiful gap fill down here at 1694 all the way from 2016. And look what happened. It hit it, pierced it perfectly, and then pushed up around 16%. Like, how beautiful is that? I would be interested in re-entering at that level potentially. If you really wanted to get in, $17 could be a nice place for SRPT. Around $17. Should have come down there. Song saying, "Hey, Lawton, what's up, Song? I have some puts on CCJ expiring September. Do you see it falling back some more? CCJ? Yeah, this thing favors a pullback, absolutely. But this is CCJ, Car Camco. It's uranium, right? So you want to take a look at uranium. That's the big one. So let's take a look at uranium. You see uranium, the chart is very similar. Uranium's had this amazing move up, right, with the bombing in Iran and all that stuff. You saw price has rebounded to near its previous highs from November of last year. Uranium does look like it's favoring a pullback, right? However, it's a question of whether or not you believe it's going to do that between now and September. I could tell you it favors a pullback, but that's not necessarily the case. And I'm actually going to use this to talk about this is a teachable moment. Okay, so taking a look at this, we're looking at head and shoulders patterns, and I've talked about this many times. We love head and shoulders patterns here. They're super bearish. If you flip them upside down, I wonder if I can rotate it. I don't know. Can't rotate it, but it's fine. They're bearish patterns, right? We love to see them head and shoulders. And you could think to yourself, oh, there's a potential head and shoulders pattern. Look, I just drew that, and it lines up almost perfectly. But this head and shoulders pattern is not valid. And I'm going to tell you why. With the head and shoulders pattern, let's take a look here. Let's say this is a shoulder. Oh, I'll undo that. Was not happy with that drawing. Shoulder. The head needs to be higher than the other shoulder. And this could be forming another shoulder, but it's not valid because, well, it's kind of close actually. It might actually be valid. I could be wrong. Still a teachable moment. But it has to be upsloping. And this is actually flat or kind of upsloping. So this is actually still a valid head and shoulders pattern. So I take that back, right? There's a head and shoulders pattern potentially forming on uranium, which is interesting to see. It's not the prettiest head and shoulders, but when we take the measured move from taking the distance between the top of the head to the neckline and taking it down, this would be a down move around 9%. So if we see uranium come down and break this neckline, the measured move would be about 9% to the downside. If that happens, then yes, CCJ is coming down. Now, how is a head and shoulders pattern negated? Well, the head and shoulders pattern is negated if any, well, particular in this case, the right shoulder, if the right shoulder ascends above, gets above the head, the top of the head. So if this price goes above this, then absolutely, absolutely, this is where it will negate it. So yeah, uranium looks like it's putting a head and shoulders pattern. If that plays out, CCJ should come down. All right, and that was your teachable moment. Let's keep going. Esther says, can you please look at Hood, Silver, Netflix support levels, please? Yeah, Esther, there's a lot of charts there. I will take a look very briefly at each of these just because we have some more questions, and I'll see if I can answer some more of your questions afterwards if we run low on questions. So for here on Hood, you saw how I drove this trend line, this pivot high, previous high, to this previous all-time high. It's important to note that their price was all the way up here previously at 85.15 on the IPO, for the IPO. Anyways, so price, that would say that price favors a pullback around this trend line. So that's the level that I would say Hood favors a pullback. So it'd be around 103.50-ish, right? As far as support is concerned, right here at this gap fill, that's where I'd likely buy it for a potential day trade today or tomorrow. If you want to look at longer term support, bigger support, of course, you have this much bigger gap fill around 91.27. And an additional one down here around 82.99. Okay, so I'll get to your other questions, Esther, if I have some time. Let's see here. Topper says UNG entry. Yeah, so natural gas. For UNG, we have to chart natural gas, right? And you see that it's kind of similar. And what do I have here? A head and shoulders pattern as well, starting to form a massive one. This is one that has a measured move down 64%. Do I think it's going to happen? Not necessarily to that extent, but should this trend line break, you're expecting to see a downside. One thing to note though is that if we take a look at natural gas, it's kind of breaking up, right? Breaking up out of this downsloping trend line. So could be starting to make a move higher, potentially targeting up here around 375, which would be about an 8% move higher, right? So for UNG, that would be roughly up here to around a 10% move higher. So if you're trading UNG, if I wanted to go long, I could consider going along here right now and putting an ad right here, an ad level here. Let's say you went long right now. You have an ad level at 14.22 and you have a stop loss right here just below $14. You're targeting a 10% gain and you're risking 8%, right? So that's a 1 to 1.25 risk to reward ratio. Not too bad, right? So that's what I would do on UNG if you absolutely told me I have to get in right now. Keen says, hi, Lon. What would be a good ad level for stock swing? Average is 916, holding it with Gareth. Yeah, for Gareth, his average is going to be a little different than mine. My average is 804 just because I've been working my average down. Had a nice day on SOXS today. Pulled back some, but it's still at 740. So that's not bad. But was all the way at 70 today. As long as we can close up, that's a good sign to see. But I would say that anywhere, I think around $7 is my personal next ad on SOX. $7. All right, guys, keep the questions coming. I'm going to be live for the next 25 minutes to answer any additional questions you guys have. All right, Frank says, can you take a look at Link and tell me what you see, whether it's good to go along with Link USDT. Sure, let's take a look at Link. And what do we see on Link? See this amazing trend line, a breakout of this trend line, and it just keeps going higher. I drew this beautiful trend line. 1, 2, kiss, 3 hit. Final breakout. You could have entered here or on a retrace. Continues higher. My target for Link is here. So if you're looking for an entry to go long, I would say you're waiting for this trend line down around $13. This thing has already gone on a run since it's popped about 20%. Right? I'm not interested in chasing, right? And this is kind of another teachable moment. So it's so easy to look at charts and think to yourself, okay, this thing is up 20% in the past couple of days. I thought about going along earlier. I could just get in now and it should keep going up, right? And that's called FOMO, the fear of missing out. And what if I told you that is the death, the absolute death of all traders, specifically retail traders who don't know to train their brains to kind of push those emotions aside. When you're trading, and if you want the highest possible win rate, you have to kind of trade like a robot, right? The algorithms that the system has in place to trade against you was specifically built to play with your emotions. So they'll drop the price so low that you're going to take the loss, and before ripping it higher, and they're going to push it up just enough to kind of get a couple suckers in before flushing it. A great example of this, right? A great example of this is on Wolf, WOLF. Like this thing declared bankruptcy, got a new CFO. Look at this move. 300% move. People were asking, my friends were texting me, should we buy now at $3, above $3? Should I buy now? And they wanted to get in. What happened? Euphoria, 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 euphoria. And then profit taking. Down 61%, 62% in a matter of 3 or 4 days. Guys, I know when you look at charts like this, I Link, you look at charts like Wolf, you really want to get in, you wish you could have got in, but that's not the way we trade. And what if you get lucky, if you're fortunate enough to get in early on one of these things, sometimes they're going to go a little higher than your exit, and that's okay, because nobody went broke taking a profit. And as Gareth loves to say, talking about baseball, singles and doubles get you into the Hall of Fame, right? At the end of the day, when you're looking at, if I was recruiting somebody, I think about Moneyball, right? Think about Moneyball, the movie about the Oakland Athletics, right? They didn't care about crazy grand slam sluggers. They knew that the odds, the cards were stacked against them, right? The odds were not in their favor. So instead of targeting players with crazy, grand slam home run ability, they're targeting players that got on base, right? They just needed to get on base, have a good on base percentage. That's all they looked at. Well, that's what they said in the movie. I'm sure they actually looked at a couple other things, right? But it's the same way with trading, guys. As long as you can get on base, as long as you can guarantee a win and let those wins sort of stack up over time, you're in the clear. You'll take that. Okay. And that was a very long-winded way to explain all that. But anyways, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Frank says, can you take a look at TPR Tapestry? Is this a good short play? TPR, again, not a stock I've previously traded before. It's important I disclose that. Okay, let's see if we have some levels, some trading levels on TPR. Have a nice trend line up here, obviously a ways away from that. If we kind of come in a little bit closer, see, it's going a little closer on this daily chart. I wonder what would happen if you took this previous high and connected it through this pivot. You're getting a little closer to some resistance levels. Little bit closer to some resistance levels. And one more. Let's try one more just for fun. I'm like kind of like particular about this. Okay. And you saw how I found that previous high, through that pivot. All right, so how are we looking? So for this one, it's getting close to this, right? It would have to get up 7% higher. But for this other trend line, looks like TPR pushed through it with no real resistance, right? Something to note on this. Sorry, excuse me. I got distracted for a second. Like didn't really provide that much resistance. So you're really looking at this. But something to note, this amazing move up, okay? Take a look at this. Below average volume. The average volume for the past 30 days is 3.45 million. And now with most of the trading day over, with most of the tradable trading day over, right? Just because there isn't that much volatility towards the end of the day, right? Okay. Someone's messing with my charts. I apologize for that. This $2.4 million, $2.46 million volume, shares traded today means that it's moving up. It's kind of floating up, right? Kind of floating up. And when it's floating up, you're not like specifically for a day trade. I'm not interested in trading it, right? For a day trade. Now for a swing trade, if TPR continues higher, and let's extend this out a little bit. Let's say it comes up here to around 107. Yeah, maybe I'd be interested in potentially shorting TPR there. Trey says, good morning again. What's up, Trey? Can you chart XCN? Absolutely. Would you consider XCN? XCN, would you consider a long? I'm wondering about what you might think a good entry point could be for long or what favor for a short. Absolutely. Let's take a look at this. Again, not something I've traded before. And I know I keep saying that, but I just want you guys to know, just being fully honest and transparent. With all my cards on the table. Down here, you had a couple trend lines here, right? You had almost like a wedge kind of forming. And we had a really nice breakout of this wedge, right? Basically one straight day. Look at how beautiful this is. 1, 2, basically 3 hits. 1, 2, 3. Fourth hit is the breakout. Boom, 41% to the upside, right? I've never traded this before, so I'm not sure what I would do, but I would, if it came back down for a long, I would consider re-entering on this trend line. We know that this trend line is good. It provided some resistance previously and now has become support. So if XCM were to turn around and come down and hit that trend line, absolutely, I'd be interested in going long. As far as short on XCM, this thing is down so much. Potentially, there's a couple level resistances, right? And it's really easy to point out. You guys can do this at home. You have these nice high pivots, right, where price has struggled to get above and pulled back. Struggled to get above and then pull back. So these are your kind of next levels of resistance here, 17, 26, 45, and 52% higher, respectively. Esther says, can you please look at support levels for Netflix and Hood? Sure. Hood, I think I covered Hood earlier, I believe. But yeah, this is my resistance for Netflix. I had this level. Look at this. 1, 2. Look at this trend line. Tried to break above it. Did finally pierce it. Closed above, but rejected and coming back down. And now the trend line that I'm watching, that you're watching, that we're all taking a look at is this. Question is, Is this a potential Head and Shoulders on Netflix? Possibly. And there's a couple ways that you can draw this neckline, right? Either the shoulder can either be, no, let's do this. I don't like that. I like this. Shoulder can be something like this. And we'll see how this can be made. Right. And if we do that, let's take that measured move. That measured move, depending on where it breaks, right, is about right here at 1041. The same place at 10.41%. 10.41%. Basically to just around 110. Coincidentally, you see anything else on the chart? This nice pivot low right here is the same pivot low that I have support for Netflix. So what does that mean? If this happens, then I would be interested in shorting on a break of this with a target here. That's both the measured move and this nice pivot low. That's a two-factor trade on Netflix. Doesn't get prettier than that. Let's see. All right, I'm going to try and get a little faster, guys, on here. We have about 4 minutes left. No, 14 minutes. Excuse me, 14 minutes left. 14 minutes, 10 minutes, 13 minutes. 13 minutes left. Sorry, brain was hurting. MD saying, hey, Lawton, hope you're doing well. Could you please tell me if you consider it a bullish reversal when there is a red bottoming tail candle instead of being green candle? Bottoming tail is a bottoming candle tail. Doesn't matter if it's red or green. Bottoming tail, topping tail, they're still valid as long as they meet the measurement requirements. Doesn't matter if they're green or red. MD, that's an excellent question. Renica says, Lawton, do you see a discernible move upward for plug? Plug, discernible move upwards. So what did I say? I said, what do you want to see if you're a fan of plug? You want to see the sideways consolidation and then move higher. If you want to go buy plug, I'll tell you exactly where I would enter the trade. I would enter right here. Oop, did not want to do that. It is on my chart. You guys see it. I see it. Everybody sees it. 142. That is a beautiful gap fill. Around 6% lower, around 10% lower. I'd be interested in starting a small position there. Additionally, an add position for me would be at this additional gap fill at 116. You do have one as well at 137, but that's less appetizing to me because it's a little too close for me to add, right? But 142, 137 would be my entry area into plug with an add over here at 116 and again around 97 cents on PLUG, Plug Power. Chris says, hi, Lon, could you show us real quick where you would enter along on an inverse head and shoulders pattern? Absolutely. Great question. Wow, this chart is absolutely insane. I apologize. Again, I feel like I'm an insane person. Okay, so I'll show you exactly where you enter. So you had this beautiful inverse head and shoulders that's drawn on this chart here for you guys to see. Measured move is up to here. You can enter in two places on an inverse head and shoulders. You can enter on a break. You want to get some skin in the game, you enter as soon as it breaks the neckline. Or you see this, it retraces back down to the neckline, comes back down, breaks above, comes back down. You get in on the retrace and cash in on the money. In this case, it went above the measured move, about 14% higher from that inverse head and shoulders. Beautiful pattern, beautiful execution on Bitcoin there. I have about 10 minutes left. So here's what I'm going to do. Throw in your questions. We're going to start our rapid fire round. For the next 10 minutes, I'm going to get through as many of your questions as possible. Are you ready? I'm not ready yet. I got to drink some water. Okay, I'm ready. This is today's rapid fire round. All right, let's do it. Let's see here. Song says, I'm trading Bitcoin for a long. It's showing a bull flag on the 10-minute chart. Let's take a look. Is Bitcoin taking a bull flag on the 10-minute chart? I would not say this is a bull flag. With a bull flag, you want to see up and then sideways. It was, let's say, if these two candles were not here, and instead these two candles put in something like this, and it continued like this, that would be a bull flag, but it's moving higher. So no, it is not a bull flag because it is up already, right? On a higher time frame, I don't think it's a bull flag either. Next question. Andrea says, I like to purchase so many stocks in ETF. My bank card only holds 0. I'm not allowed to pay via standard protocols on your page. Can I buy with something else like USDT, Revolt Transfer? I'm not sure, Andres. If you're really interested in joining us, you can send an email to support@verifiedinvesting.com, and I'm sure they can help you out. Derek says, good day, Lawton. Good day, Mr. Derek. If you could review the nickel chart, please. Let's take a look. So this is nickel miners. So what we want to do is just take a look at nickel. So nickel itself, to be honest with you, that's on the 10-minute. Let's look at the daily. Same thing. Looks kind of bearish. I'm not going to lie. I have this upsloping trend line that it's bounced off of a little, but should this come down and close below, I'm expecting to move down on nickel at least to this gap fill about 4% lower. Now, what does that do to the nickel miners? That does mean it will probably favor a move down, whether it's, to this potentially about this gap fill here at around 7% lower, around $11.30. Okay. Mancool says, hi, Lawton. What's up, Mancool? Could you please look at CRV USDT? Absolutely. Anything you want with the chart. Or we can talk about sports. I'd be happy to talk about sports. And we have a downward sloping trend line. This is the third hit. Do we now? Oh, would you look at that? We absolutely 100% do. How do we trade that? Or should we try to find additional factors? I mean, again, this is the same thing as an inverse head and shoulders. Any trend line, essentially an inverse head and shoulders or a head and shoulders pattern is just a stronger trend line. That's all it is. So there are two ways you can enter this. You can enter this on a break or on a retrace, right? Now, the thing that you need to keep in your mind is, where are you going to take profits? Where is the resistance level? There are some resistance level here, 15% higher, around 81 cents. That's what it would be my target on CRV USDT should I enter this trade. But it needs to close above or retrace for me. Mark says, what support resistance do you have for DOGE? Absolutely. Let's take a look at DOGE. DOGE, something a little bit similar, right? We have a beautiful trend line that was broken out of, right? No matter how you draw it, this was broken out of. But this one is a trend line that DOGE is coming into, right? And look at that. Look at this. It's so close. It got close. It kissed it twice. So we know that this is going to be some level of resistance. So for me, what support or resistance levels do you see for DOGE? For support levels, I'd be interested in potentially support down here and here. But honestly, this looks kind of bullish, right? The more it consolidates here, becomes almost a bull flag. Again, same thing that I just said to Moncol. I'd enter on a break of this or a retrace, right? And look for another move higher, right? Not up there, but I'd be happy to take a 22% gain on DOGE here, or even a little bit more, up to like 26 cents on DOGE. But that's where I'm looking. Brian says, a stocks to buy. I have bought stocks. My last buy on stocks was $7.20. I am bullish on stocks, 100% bullish. Chris says, can you take a look at Anon USDT? 100%. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at Anon. This is not something I've traded before. It looks like something that ICO'd recently. For me, not really interested in trading this. And that's because of how new it is. And I could just be biased, but you have a nice upsloping trend line that if this level of support breaks, you're likely looking at significant downside, right? It tried to break, it hit one, two, kissed it, 3 hit. Try to close below, but stayed above. If you break this, you're looking, it's going down. So I would stay away from this, to be honest. Not something I would be interested in trading, but you have this. If it breaks above this upsloping trend line, even if it's all the way over here, it's bullish to me. If this breaks below this trend line, it's bearish. Okay, it's kind of forming like a little wedge, if you will. Oh my God, stock trading diaries, too many tickers. I'll go quicker. Regetti, these are my support and resistance levels on Regetti. 1142 support, 1106, 1030 support. Resistance is 1476, 1531, and 1622. You can go check the VOD on YouTube if you want to see these levels again. Oh man, so many questions, guys. Is there Paula says, bought QID, SDS based on buy alert. So holding, should I be still coming to hold this? I understand they're expensive. I do think CPI will prove this out. If you have a question about a specific stock in our services, right, I would just trust that trader, right? I mean, I trust Gareth or Ben or Drew, whoever put that out. Trace says, hi again. What's up? Can you check chart TARS AI, TAI, USDT? For me, I'm trying to go a little quicker here. Down sloping trend line. Don't love this chart a whole lot. Kind of making like a wedge, right? So break down, bearish, break up, bullish. I know it's easy to say it could go either way, but there are tactical levels to that. LAC, stock trading diaries, Lithium Americas Corporation had a huge inverse head and shoulders pattern here. Failed to break out, retraced, and is moving higher. I would say that in my opinion, right, these are my own thoughts. I think that a good profit target would be around 316 for LAC. Paul says, I know HBAR is going down. Oh man, you guys have the questions today. You guys have all the questions today. HBAR is going down. However, given its fundamental, I think it's a good hold. Yeah, potentially. I mean, HBAR is not really going down. I mean, it just broke up out of this crazy good out of this nice level here. This also wedge, right, breaking up. For me on HBAR, I do think it's going to pull back, right? But you could see some support at this previous pivot high. But that was a great move up yesterday from HBAR. Of course, it's altcoin season because Bitcoin ripped, so everything is coming up. Okay, there's a couple more questions, guys. I'm only going to be able to answer one more. I'm sorry, guys. But I'll take Sarah's question. Sarah, is there inverted head and shoulders in XRP USDT? Let's take a look. Low, and the answer is kind of, right? This isn't really valid just because. Okay, it depends. The question is, the answer is it depends. Okay, so let's delete this. Let's delete all this stuff right here. You can say this is one shoulder and this is the other shoulder. Okay, let's remove all my previous stuff and say that this was the inverted head and shoulders, right? You have shoulder, head, shoulder. Yes, I would say it's valid. And let's see that measured move for you on this XRP USDT. But that's just another factor. Wow, so beautiful. 52% to the upside. So absolutely, Sarah. that is an inverted head and shoulders. I did my best, guys, to answer as many questions as possible. Again, I'm not always going to be able to get to all of them, but I do try my best. Again, my name is Lawton Ho here with Verified Investing, and I do this every single day that the markets are open from 12:30 to 12:30 to 1:15. If you have more questions for me, I'd love to answer them. Just send them to me on Twitter. Just send me a private message at Lawton Investing, and I will do my best to answer those. Okay. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for spending your afternoon with me, and best of luck trading, guys. Have a good one. Take it easy, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye, guys.